Okay, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining this morning's webinar entitled Accelerate Innovation with Microsoft Azure and Codec. So my name is Richard Nolan, and I'll just be giving you a quick introduction. I work for Codec, Head of Digital Transformation and all things Microsoft Cloud. We have Vivas on, who's the Azure Business Group Lead at Microsoft, and he's going to be presenting the value of Microsoft Azure for ISVs. Mark Murphy actually will be next after that, and he will be talking about some really cool stuff for ISVs in terms of getting your products out there, increasing revenue, time to market, and so on. And that's by uploading your products onto the Azure Marketplace. And he'll be talking about the future of B2B transactions. Mark is the ISV Partner Development Manager at Microsoft Ireland. And then our own Mark Allen from Codec, a Azure Cloud Solutions Architect, and he's going to be talking about cloud native for ISVs. So very quickly, I'll just get on with my couple of slides and give you a little bit of background on Codec itself. So Codec, one of Microsoft's leading partners in Ireland. We've been around for about 35 years. We've got offices all over Ireland, UK, Germany, and Poland. We've actually just opened up a new office in Turkey, just outside Ankara. And we have revenues of around 36 million euro in our last financial year. And we have a headcount of 230. This is an interesting one here because about 3.5 years ago, we had about 90 staff. And so it's pretty significant growth in a relatively short period of time, given our history. And this is really because we stopped doing a lot of things. We took a strategy about 6 or 7 years ago, just to focus on the Microsoft stack and becoming a full stack partner for Microsoft. And that culminated in us coming up with this terrific figure. And we should be hitting about 250 by January of 2022. So all this culminated in us winning what we call the treble, which is the Country Partner of the Year, BizApps Partner of the Year, and Data Transformation Partner of the Year, which is close to my heart. And that had never been done before, and we don't think it's going to happen anytime soon in the future. But it was a really good underwriting from Microsoft of Codec's abilities in this area. So yeah, so just talking about awards, our latest awards that we have, I'm just going to talk about the Azure ones here. We won the Azure Migration Partner of the Year for the Irish marketplace, but more significantly, and this is something that doesn't happen very often for an Irish company, we were a global finalist for the Azure Migration Partner of the Year. So rubbing shoulders there with Accenture, or Avanade as they're now called, and IBM Global Services. Which is, I had to have a little bit of a chuckle about that because I used to work for IBM, and when things weren't going so well there, we used to say IBM stood for I blame Microsoft. So, but backing all this up really is our staff. So we have a great team of people who are highly certified and accredited, and that enables us to get these 12 gold certifications and 2 silver. So we are the most accredited partner for Microsoft in Ireland as well. So this is great, a really good team there. That's backed up by externally audited service standards. So we have ISO going from the 9001 right through the service management certifications as well, and also Cyber Essentials, which is a really key thing there as well, given the security concerns nowadays. So again, an externally audited body comes in and do this. But I think the thing that we're most proud of here is the one at the top right, and that is our Azure Expert MSP. Very, very few companies have this. There's about 80 globally who have this status, so we're pretty unique in that, especially in Ireland. So it's a great thing to have there, and I can talk about that in a little bit more detail. But it's not just a badge and the fact that we have MVPs and great consultants and all that, but it's also an Aladdin's cave of fantastic resources that are available to our customers through us. This is basically where all the Azure comes from in Western Europe, and this is just outside Dublin in a place called Grange Castle. is Microsoft's data center. Everything comes out of this, all things Azure and M365 and so on. But we are a CSP direct. CSP is a Microsoft term for the partners, Cloud Solutions Partner. And we're tier 1, so it means we provision the licensing and the subscriptions directly from the data center to our customers. Very much an automated billing process, works really well, but it's the best way to buy your subscriptions. So what you get here, and this is unique to Codec as well, we have a plan there which gives best pricing through rebate gates for consumption levels. So it ranges between 5 to 10%, so really good discounts in there. Also, when you work with us and you sign up with us, included in the standard price of the subscription is premium support. So really good thing there, you get this uplift there. Normally that costs a minimum of about $25,000 a year. You get it included in the subscription when you sign up with Codec. I mentioned the expert MSP, great resources in there, fantastic stuff, great tools, engineering level tools that a normal partner doesn't have access to. And then the final one here is really cool, and Mark's going to talk about this a lot more later on. And this is how to get your products up into marketplace and to work with the co-sell program in Microsoft. Really, really good stuff there. It's been going for a couple of years, but it's really gotten hold in the last while. Just a little bit about our own cloud business structure. So the business structure is we have an architecture practice, really good stuff here to have a look at maybe assessing what you've got and how to improve it and optimize it and so on, and the best way to buy your subscriptions and the resources to be using in there. That's backed up by security, governance, and compliance. We do a lot of work in here, especially in government at this stage, but also with ISVs and other corporate customers. We've got a great modern workplace design practice that's mostly around M365, EMS, security products, that kind of stuff. The data analytics and AI, this area here is really taking off. So this is all about, business intelligence, artificial intelligence, data analytics, great stuff here. You can actually develop products in here, great add-ons for your own main application in terms of giving your customers more data. Very cool stuff. And as I mentioned, all this is backed up by a premium support program. This slide here is just to give you an idea of some of the customers that we work with. These guys are ISVs. Some of them are absolutely knockout companies, billion-dollar plus, like Finergo, and coming up on the rails are the global shares and Flipdish, fantastic companies. Smaller guys that are really taking off. Xocean is a really interesting one, really close to my heart in this one here, because these are the guys that help us become a finalist for that particular Azure award. Xocean, very cool. What they do is they have these unmanned vessels, ocean-going vessels, which map the sea floor. They come back with loads of data, bring it back into port, and then we upload it into Azure for analysis and putting 3D graphics together. So really cool company. They're based in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, working really well. And again, a lot of other companies there that are really worth mentioning, but I can talk about those to anybody who wants to do that later on. So that's really it for me. I'll come back and kind of wrap things up later on, but this is just the screen to say, if you want to engage, I'll be your point of contact. So I'm the Azure for ISVs executive lead within Codec. That's my email address there, ornolan@codec.ie. My mobile number if you want to give me a call. But if you're looking to engage and sign up for Azure, or you already have Azure and you want to switch over to CSP and get the CSP Plus program included, just contact me. App mod assessment, Mark Allen's going to talk a little bit more about that during his presentation. We can talk about upload to marketplace and how to co-sell with Microsoft and how to engage at that level there. So basically just reach out, give me a buzz, send me an email, and we can get that going. So that's it from myself. I'm going to now hand over to Bibas, and Mark, you're running with this one here. You're at the controls there, so hopefully you should have that now. Mark?
Just while Mark is setting it up, Richard, thank you so much for kicking it off. And It's great to see the whole portfolio, the specialization. It kind of sets you apart as well when it comes to the whole partner ecosystem over here in Ireland. Just before I start, I'd like to first introduce myself as well. My name is Bibhas Bhattacharya. I am the business group lead for Azure here in Ireland. So anything and everything to do with Azure kind of lies with me. If you have anything, any queries or anything, please feel free to reach out to me through LinkedIn or through Mark or Richard. We stay very fairly well connected. Mark, if we could go to the next slide, I can then quickly touch upon the co-sell element of Microsoft. So look, when you look at co-selling with Microsoft, there are 3 distinct channels that you can leverage, and it'll all depend on the journey that you're on and where you are at your from a state standpoint as well. The biggest one that I wanted to touch upon was direct customer, and this is something that Mark is going to walk you through in a little bit more of detail as we progress through the next slides. So at an overall level, when co-selling with Microsoft, you can sell across all of these 3 channels: direct, partner, and Microsoft sellers. I'm going to explain 3 of them very quickly. First is the direct customer channel, which is via our web direct stores. So you have AppSource, you have Azure Marketplace, and through this Microsoft Commercial Marketplace, what you get is reach into millions of buyers in more than 140 global geographies, which is massive. If you had to scale your sales in 140 countries, you can only imagine how difficult that would be. But this is something that you can use to really increase your reach, increase your revenues, get more customers. The second element is, or the second way of selling is partner. And this is a very important one, because when you are in your journey of building solutions, you'll very quickly realize that there is potentially a lot of space out there where you can look at partner to partner solutions. This is where you can work with each other to create integrated solutions through both IP and managed services to holistically address customer needs from an end-to-end perspective. Partners obviously are encouraged to work to scale together and tap into the rich community of skilled partner sellers to meet ever-growing cloud demand. And why this is important is that when you go into a customer, more often than not, you will probably be looking at one problem, one solution. But when you work with a partner, you can actually accentuate that with a few other solutions as well, hence building an overall holistic solution that a customer might need from an industry perspective. Finally, the Microsoft sellers piece. This is very, very much at the core of everything that we do. This is where you'll be able to leverage the Microsoft sales ecosystem. You'll be able to generate and share co-sell opportunities. With these 3 Microsoft sellers, partner to partner, and the direct channel, you literally have millions of avenues through which you can grow your business. Mark, if you could go to the slide. Perfect. Thank you. And now just on the why element as well, right? Just to give you a little context, several years ago, Satya came out with this quote, which kind of resonates today with everything that we do, every organization that we deal with. And that is, every company is a software company. And that trend has never been more true today. The future is logged into the world running of digital experiences. Whether it's an ice cream shop, a retail outlet, a fast format retail, a manufacturing organization, FSI, everybody is in this. And while we are all bought into this notion, the exploitation of software and the need for continuous innovation has led to extreme complexity as well. And if you look at it on the right-hand side of the slide, you'll very quickly see what are those challenges that customers in enterprise and SMB across the board have: managing cloud spend, driving governance. Governance has become extremely critical today as you look at any or every organization. Security, compliance. One of the biggest ones that we see is lack of resources and expertise. And then you have managing multi-cloud environments. Over a period of time, customers land up acquiring companies, land up acquiring their legacy estates, different cloud environments. How do you manage it? And then towards the end, it's cloud migration. So when you look at it from a complexity standpoint, customers have to onboard a magnitude of apps and services to simply run their operations or their business. And on the flip side, software creators have services they need to reach out to customers too. While we all probably agree that tech is probably one of the best industries to be in. Getting a niche API app migration offering to your customers can be like finding a needle in a haystack. So think of it a bit more holistically as well when you look at all of these challenges, when you're trying to address problems for your customers as well. And just on the last slide, I'll just like to give you a little perspective of what do we see, right? And just this is our app source. This is our marketplace. There are upwards of 27,000 plus offers that are already out there that our customers can leverage from, and this is an ever growing portfolio of offers. So my only request would be, if you think you're on that journey, and if you think scale is of very high importance for you, you need somebody to really partner with, look no further, reach out to Codec, reach out to us. We'll be there to help you out. And in the next few slides, Mark will walk you through of the how to get there as well. So Mark, over to you, and thanks everyone again.
Thanks, Bivas. Hi, everyone. Hope you're keeping well. Mark Murphy is the name. I'm the independent software vendor, ISV. You know, we love our acronyms in Microsoft. I'm the ISV software vendor, partner development manager for Microsoft in Ireland. So I spend all of my time working with independent software vendors based out of Ireland. And to Bivas's point, the marketplace really is the future of business-to-business transactions. We are now at the dawn of a new era in how businesses transact. Previously, it would have been channel and direct. Now there's a third player in the market. It's channel, direct, and marketplaces. If you think back from a business to consumer point of view, when Apple launched the App Store, that transformed how people purchased apps on the smartphone. Now with cloud marketplaces, we're now at the dawn of the era where people are starting to purchase their solutions through cloud marketplaces. And ISVs have this opportunity to list their solutions in our commercial marketplace to become one of those ISVs that are accessing over 4 million viewers on a monthly basis. So we're not just an AWS marketplace or a Salesforce marketplace. We're all of that combined. We cover the 4 segments you can see on the screen here. So we have applications and infrastructure ISVs with applications that are catering for that, but also there's business applications. And I know Codec would be quite strong on the dynamic side of the house, but lots of ISVs can integrate their IP and connect to Dynamics 365 and make that available to over 4 million viewers on a monthly basis through our commercial marketplace. We also have data and AI solutions, and AI is just really exciting. It's one of the things that I love about my job, is working with ISVs that are leveraging our platform at the bleeding edge to transform how people work on a daily basis. And then you've got modern work solutions where you would have things like Teams integrations, which are becoming so popular with 250 million daily users of Microsoft Teams. It's an obvious place for an ISV to look to see, can they enhance their offering by having it to integrate with Microsoft Teams. Just to give you a high level view of some of the examples of the ISVs that are listed in the commercial marketplace. You can see at the top with the likes of Adobe, Confluence, Citrix, Checkpoint, Red Hat, and we've got 8 verticals underneath. And Microsoft has gone very much into the whole cloud by vertical. We have a cloud for financial services. We have a cloud for healthcare. We have a cloud for manufacturing. And we also have a cloud for sustainability. Microsoft is really doubling down on sustainability and becoming carbon negative by 2030. So we really are trying to enhance the environment that we're in today. But the commercial marketplace is basically 2 storefronts. We have Microsoft App Source, where you would have industry applications, line of business applications, and productivity applications. And then in the Azure marketplace, you can list your solution, but these are workload building blocks for Azure, where these would be more the techie solutions. The technical guys will go to the Azure marketplace for the most part, but the business decision makers generally will gravitate towards App Source. Within App Source and the Azure marketplace, so you can have your Microsoft 365's integration, your Power Platform integration in App Source, as well as Dynamics 365, as I touched on earlier. But the Azure marketplace has one thing called the MAC, which I'm going to touch on at the moment, which really resonates with ISVs in order to help them acquire new customers and scale and grow their business. It's a hyperscale marketplace. I think Microsoft has been around since 1975, so obviously we've onboarded a huge number of customers, and Microsoft itself is built on partners. So it's the biggest hyperscale marketplace on the planet. You're getting access to 4 million viewers on a monthly basis, as Bibas also described, but that's across 140 different geographies. I know of an example of an ISV who were based out of Sweden, and they had a new CEO who was from Japan. And the CEO was interested in how can we start to sell into Japan? Should we put some boots on the ground? But they actually leveraged the commercial marketplace to gain entry into that market quite successfully. So it's an opportunity for you to get this scale into these 140 different countries. And I think one of the biggest things is to ease the procurement process. If you can simplify the procurement process for your customers, that's a win-win, because not only are you making the procurement process easier for you as an ISV to onboard customers, you're making it easier for your customers to purchase your solution, which let's face it, things can always get hairy when it comes to procurement, and that's generally when things can get a little bit tricky, but the marketplace can enable you to simplify that. And Microsoft is the most trusted cloud on the planet. It's very much a trusted platform by enterprises and by partners globally. But on the Mac, as I described earlier, what you can do with the commercial marketplace is you can leverage an existing agreement with Microsoft if you list the correct listing, which we call a transactable offer. There's 3 different offer types in the commercial marketplace. You have a contact me, a free trial, and a get it now. And a get it now is when the customer can click and purchase your ISV solution through the commercial marketplace and through their agreement with Microsoft. You can apply 100% of that purchase towards a MAC. Now, I touched on a MAC briefly. What does MAC mean in English? MAC stands for a Microsoft Azure Consumption Commitment. So if a large enterprise makes a commitment of 10 million to Microsoft, for example, over 3 years, you can then go to the customer, if your solution is listed correctly, to say, do you know you can actually purchase our ISV solution through your commitment to Microsoft? So that 10 million commit, if your solution was $1 million a year, for example, they can decrement 1 million of their commitment to Microsoft. So that's what I was talking about to say you're simplifying the procurement process. On the next thing, you've got private offers, because a lot of enterprises are now kind of going, yeah, I really love your solution. Can you send me a private offer? So when you list, you have the option to have the 3 as I described, the contact me, the free trial, the get it now. But if the customer, a large enterprise, wants a bespoke offer that's bespoke to them, you can go into Partner Center. You can create a private offer that's only available to that customer. You need to ask them for their tenant ID. You can limit it to a certain number of people within the organization, and then you can make an offer for them. I've seen examples of a very big retailer reach out to an ISV to say, I do love your ISV solution. Please send me a private offer. And all of this software can be added to existing Azure subscriptions. So going back to this simplifying the procurement process, I'm not going to put the marketplace as a big lead generation engine for you. It's more of a procurement simplification tool. So if you can simplify the process, so when you're reaching out as part of your sales pitch, you can engage with the customer and say, do you have a Mac with Microsoft? Do you know you can purchase your solution through, or purchase our solution through the commercial marketplace? And it's simplifying the standard contract terms, because for the most part, the terms and conditions have already been agreed with Microsoft. You can put in an addendum underneath your offering to say that these are special terms and conditions outside of that, but the T's and C's have already been agreed. So again, it's all about simplifying the procurement process. And what's newly available and what we're seeing now is some really large organizations want to ensure that they can only purchase certain number of ISV solutions through the commercial marketplace. And this is what we call a private marketplace, where they can manage pre-approved apps, they can regulate costs and procurement, and you can obviously increase your innovation. So the customer can lock down to say, I only want to be able to buy these 10 different ISV solutions, and that's what we're calling the private marketplace. And just to give you some get started today, I've got some links on the Azure Marketplace. So you can go to aka.ms/Azure Marketplace, which is, as I described, where you'll have your technical solutions. This is where you can access this Microsoft Azure Consumption Commitment. You've got Microsoft AppSource. AppSource is where you'll have your line of business application. You can do your Dynamics 365 or your Teams integration. And there's obviously an awful lot to learn in relation to the marketplace. So there's a link to MS Learn, all about the marketplace, and also about the private marketplace. But if any of the above is of interest, please do reach out to myself or Richard and Codec, and we can gladly help you on your journey as an ISV. And I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for your time, and I hope to speak to you soon. I'm going to hand over to you now, Mark.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Hi, I'm Mark Allen. I'm a cloud solution architect with Codec. I'm actually in the application modernization team. I've also been a developer for a very long time, so I'm just going to spend a few minutes here talking from a slightly more technical point of view about using cloud native for ISVs in Azure. Cloud native means slightly different things to different people, so I'll be using a fairly broad definition of stuff that you can do in the cloud that's either hard or impossible to do in a traditional data center. So what I'll be going through here, first of all, I'll be talking quickly about how to get into the cloud if you're not already there. Then I will be talking about moving on from that to the benefits you get from being in the cloud and the cloud native things you can use. And we'll be moving on then to stuff that you can do which takes advantage of the cloud, which might be beyond what you're already doing in your existing application at the moment. And finally, just talking about the guardrails that Azure has in place to be able to safely deploy everything, and quickly deploy everything so you can get a quicker time to market. So first part of that, getting into the cloud. So Azure has this sort of overarching service called Azure Migrate. So if you're currently on-prem and you're generally speaking, you're thinking of moving to the cloud because you're fed up of doing all the management of your infrastructure, so your hardware, your platform security and updates, setting disaster recovery plans, trying to have high availability, and trying to provision the right amount of compute power and storage and stuff to actually be able to work with your high levels of traffic, but not spend too much when you've got the low levels of traffic going on. So what Azure Migrate will allow you to do is it's a suite of tools. Some of them run on premises and some in the cloud, but they help you to analyze and assess your current server estate and get that moved into Azure. And that's certainly something else Richard was saying that Codec can help you with, but you can in theory do it yourself as well. And there's two main sides to it. First of all, you can move your data over. So you can take your current SQL server, your MySQL, your Postgres, or even your Mongo databases, and it will help you to migrate those over to managed equivalents in Azure. So once you're in a managed database, obviously you get all those advantages. You're not going to lose data because of all the Azure backup that's already there, and you get point and click in the portal for high availability and geo redundancy and backups. And the other thing that Azure Migrate gives you is it gives you the choice between offline and online migrations, as it calls it. So you can either just do a one-time shift of all your data, or you can actually have an ongoing synchronization of your data from your old database to your new database, so that when the time comes to switch over, you don't lose anything. You can pretty much do it without any downtime. On the other side, we've got the compute. So, obviously one thing you can do is just to do a direct lift and shift of your VMs and servers into Azure VMs. More interestingly, from the cloud native side of things, it also will help you to containerize your web apps. Containers, for those of you who haven't come across them or are a bit hazy on it, are essentially the answer to a developer who says, well, it works on my PC, but then when you deploy it out. It no longer works on your PC. It's a package of your application and all its dependencies, which you can then pick up and deploy to anywhere. It almost feels like a tiny little VM, but it's actually a process that runs on the machine. So it's very lightweight. You can use it when the developers are actually building the application, but you can then easily deploy it out and very quickly spin it up and down. So if it's just something that does a simple process, then it's very quick to spin up and down and allows you to manage your capacity a lot better. Ways that you can use the containers that you've got in Azure. The simplest way is to drop it onto Azure App Service. That's just a simple web hosting platform. You can drop your container onto the app service, and that will handle the SSL and all that sort of stuff for you. And it allows you to scale either manually or automatically at a fairly granular level. The next thing you can do, of course, is, again, in the cloud native world, so cloud native to a lot of people means Kubernetes. Kubernetes is at the opposite end, something that allows you to take a whole load of containers. So if you've got lots of different applications and processes, and you've got web apps and you've got backend processing services and things, Kubernetes is designed to allow you to take those containers for those services and spread their workload across a number of underlying VMs, or nodes as it calls them, to get them to talk to each other, to talk to the outside world, to recover them if they go wrong, and to sort of allow you to have the right number running on each VM. Downside of Kubernetes, it's very powerful. It runs multi-cloud, but it is quite complex, and generally you need a fair bit of ops experience to run it. So the other option that's now in Azure is what's called Azure Container Apps, and that's a much simpler way of doing container orchestration. It actually runs on Kubernetes under the covers, but it abstracts all the difficult bits from you, so that essentially all you have to do is say, these are my containers, and this is how they want to talk to each other, and this is how they scale. So as an example, if one of your containers is a service that processes video files, for example, all you have to do is tell Container Apps where the folder is where those video files are going to come into, and it will automatically scale up your containers when a large number of files are coming in, but it will actually then scale you back down to 0 when there's no work to do. So it's a lot more efficient use, and it's very easy to work with. On the data side, at least on the SQL relational database side, I'll talk very briefly here about some benefits you get from using Azure SQL, but you can get similar benefits from the Azure hosted versions of MySQL and Postgres as well. There are essentially 3 ways that you can do SQL in Azure. You can literally just move a VM over. There's also what's called SQL Managed Instance, which is very similar to the VM style of things, in that you're running the same SQL as you would have run on premises, but it's a managed platform, so you don't have to worry about managing the operating system and all that sort of stuff. You'll get the best results, though, if you can, going for the fully managed SQL database. That gives you some useful features in terms of provisioning and sizing and capacity and things. So you've got a standard provisioning, which is essentially just saying you set a maximum level on the size of the on the throughput of the database, and it will stick to that. So you get a nice, simple, predictable pricing model, but you can very easily change that at any time, and you can script that up so you can scale it down at slow times a day and such like that. But you can also do things like serverless pricing. So if you've got a very bursty, sort of throughput model, you can have Azure only charge you for the amount of throughput that's going through your database, so the amount of storage and the amount of CPU that it's using. The base cost is a bit more, but if you've got a certain amount of burstiness to that, then you will end up having a much more efficient use of your costs. And some ISVs have a separate database for each of their tenants or for each of their clients. And that's where Elastic Pool comes in useful. You can take a whole load of databases, and even though they may be individually bursty, you can get an overall throughput cap, in the same way as you do your standing provisioning, but you can run it across a whole load of databases so that you can run lots of individual clients on lots of on a simple pool that's got a standard pricing to it. So that's where we are for just simply moving your stuff into the cloud. You get the benefits, scalability benefits of containers, and you get the pricing and scalability benefits of a managed database, and the fact that your database high availability and availability and backups and that stuff is all taken care of for you. You can take it a bit further though if you're willing to start re-architecting slightly. These are just some examples of things that were designed for the cloud from day one. So the first one you may have heard of, Azure Functions, that's a serverless processing platform. So essentially, if you write code that works with Azure Functions, you get pay for use, you get infinitely and immediately scalable, and you only pay literally for the milliseconds that your functions are running for. It even works with a service called Azure Static Web Apps to allow you to have serverless websites. If you've come across the Jamstack pattern, that's a way of running a website that has a static front end and serverless API behind it, which means that your website can also scale to meet any amount of demand. So if if you're living in fear of a sudden rush of traffic and a whole load of 503 too busy error messages coming up, then that's handled for you. And if nobody's using your site, you're not paying anything. So it's a great feature for that. You also get things like Event Grid, and there's a whole suite of messaging products, but Event Grid allows you to do as a general purpose cloud pub/sub messaging service. So you can take your containerized applications and trigger those off events that are happening either from your application or things that are happening in Cosmos. So for instance, in Azure. So for instance, we were talking about triggering off documents arriving. So Event Grid can tell your application when something is happening in Azure, when a document is created, and it also supports cloud events, so you can get external inputs from external event sources as well. And the last one, which is a really good one for the data people amongst you, there is a day one cloud native database called Cosmos. It's a non-relational database, but you can query it using SQL syntax. It allows you to emulate Cosmos and Cassandra and a whole load of other sort of industry standard databases. And because it was designed from day one as a cloud database, they can put some really great service levels under there. So you get really super low latency, you get built-in global replication, you get multi-master, so people can access the database from their nearest their nearest region. And you can literally just add regions just by clicking in the portal. So basically, a cloud-native database gives you just huge speed and storage potential, and I just love it. I'll just admit it. Finally, Satya Nadella referred to Azure as the world's computer at one point. As well as just something to run your application, you've also got this huge supercomputer essentially that runs a whole load of services that just take advantage of the sheer scale of compute and data that are available. So you get things like cognitive services, which are off-the-shelf AI services. So that can do anything from text to speech and speech to text conversion, to sentiment analysis, to face and voice recognition. And there are image services for doing things like object recognition to see when something is in a particular image. Image classification, which can be very useful for basing services on, so for instance, there are people who have services out there, where you take pictures of good things, pictures of bad things, train it up, and then you can be warned when a particular camera picks up a picture of a bad thing. And things like form recognition. So if you have ready-made forms that you need to pass, so receipts or invoices or all sorts of things, then there are built-in services there to allow you to pass that into structured formats. You also, if you are doing your own AI and ML, there's machine learning studios built in that allow you to do your own model training. And of course, machine learning is very compute heavy, so you can run up as much compute as you want to do your model training, and then obviously switch it all off when you're done with it, so you don't have to worry about having your own provisioned hardware sitting around. You can just throw compute at it as you want. And on the data side, obviously you've got unlimited processing and unlimited storage. So if you're still stuck in the days of doing the old ETL pipelines where you're extracting, transforming first, and then loading into your data warehouse, you can now do stream-based data running at very high IoT levels. You can use ELT, so extract, load, and transform. So you can load straight into your data warehouse and then just transform it into the right shape for whatever it is you need to do after you've loaded it, so you don't lose any data, you've still got your full fidelity. And finally, the guardrails. So we've got all this stuff going on at high elasticity, high scale. Obviously, you might be worried about what that means if something grows too much, costs you too much. So there's a few guardrails that Azure has built in. There's Azure Advisor, which actually proactively scans all your Azure resources and will advise you on security and cost and reliability, performance and ops matters. So for instance, it might tell you that it would be good to enable encryption or turn off general access to a service for security. It might warn you about the fact that a resource seems to be over provisioned for the amount of work it's doing on the cost side. It might tell you that a particular service could do with having high availability turned on or geo redundancy. It will give you performance recommendations. So for instance, there's database tuning that could be done to speed things up, and it will warn you on the ops side if you're, for instance, using deprecated features or something. There's also cost management built in, so you can get budget alerts if you're worried about things costing too much, sort of being left turned on, then it will warn you about that sort of thing. And there's also a whole load of really useful drill down dashboards, so you can get right down to the nitty-gritty detail of what exactly is costing the money and what regions and which dev environments, test environments, live environments, how much is going into each one. Azure Monitor is a built-in suite of monitoring tools that allow you to get logs and metrics for everything, all the way from the actual Azure network infrastructure up through virtual machine operating system instrumentation, all the way up to your actual application. So it will sort of pick up exceptions from your applications, and you can even add your own custom events into your code and register those. And then you can go and query logs and metrics, and also trigger notifications and runbooks if log queries or metrics go past thresholds that you've defined. And finally, infrastructure as code, which is particularly useful, I would say, for ISVs in terms of reliably getting a quick time to market. With the cloud, you can define what it is that you're deploying as declarative code templates. So you can then use that not only to deploy your production environment, but also to deploy a pre-production environment, a test environment, a development environment, a second test environment. And because it's all declarative and cloud-based, you can create and destroy these environments as much as you want. So you don't have to create a test environment for a particular customer and then keep it there. There's a whole load of, that's part of the whole DevOps story, and DevOps really took off obviously when cloud came along, just because of this speed of deployment and time to market and being able to fix things very quickly. So in summary, you can get into the cloud very easily using Azure Migrate. It's not the complicated thing that it used to be once upon a time. As soon as you move up, you get scalability and elasticity built in. You also get new programming models opening up to you. You get a huge amount of power available to you, either for your own application or for using third-party services and first-party services. And Azure has your back all the way through it. We'll keep an eye on things for you, and we'll make sure that you, well, try as best you can that you don't go wrong. So that's me done. Don't forget you can put questions in the chat if you have any, and I will hand it back to Richard.
Yeah, thanks a million there, Mark. Very good. I'm just going to show my screen. Hopefully you'll see it coming up now.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, you got that?
We got you.
Very good. Yeah. So Mark, absolutely brilliant, and it's great to hear somebody who's really passionate about the business and the profession that they're in. So well done, and obviously from Vivas and Mark Murphy as well. They, I mean, it's a great team we have here. We're available to work with you across a number of areas, not just getting up into Azure, but taking you on that journey, helping you with modernizing your application or optimizing it and so on. And really importantly, how do you monetize? How do you bring it to market? How do you make money out of this? How do you drive revenues? And there's a great program here with CoSell. So basically, I'd encourage you to reach out, engage with us. I'll be your point of contact. If you have any questions for the guys, just send it in to me. We'll get back to you very quickly. I'm available 24/7, 9 to 5. So be delighted to work with you on this. And I think that's a wrap from us. So thank you very much for attending, and hopefully we'll hear from you again. Okay, Sinead or Christina, do we need to click stop presenting or what?
Thank you, everybody. I will now end the webinar. Yes, correct. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Great stuff. Well done, guys. Thanks, Mill.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.